welcome back to another one of my videos. I've tried to put a lot into these videos. This is all about the expansion chamber and how it got developed and the miraculous changes it made to two-stroke engines. Back in the 50s, when motorcycle racing was all the rage and scooters were simply a pastime of small sports and recreational stuff, the two-stroke engine was really in its infancy. But then, after the Second World War, and scientists and engineers that had been working on the German war industry, came a guy called Walter Kaaden. Walter Kaaden was the granddaddy of the two-stroke engine. His development changed everything. He worked for DKW and then later worked for MZ motorcycles, who became the gods of the two-stroke engine. They were way ahead of the Japanese. When you thought that Japanese invented the expansion chamber and the reed valve, nope, you're wrong. It was all done by MZ. And then it was stolen by Suzuki. Ernest Degner finished a race in Sweden and then sneaked all the top secret information over to the Japanese, and then Suzuki became the masters. Walter Kaaden, after he was working on projects like the V2 and V1 rocket, the V1 was a pulse engine, so he took his knowledge from that and thought he could use it in developing the two-stroke engine because it had similarities. The resonance and pulses of the pulse engine, jet engine, he thought he could use that in the two-stroke engine, and he was absolutely right. So he was working on two-stroke exhaust systems, and he had the idea that resonance and pulse waves could increase the power of the two-stroke engine. So they experimented. Everything was simply the same as I was doing it back in the 80s because I didn't have a dyno. Simply couldn't pray. They didn't have the maths for it. They didn't have the designs we've got now and the technology where you can just go onto a computer program and it designs your expansion chamber for you. No, they had to use their ability to just simply modify and test until they got results. And it worked in a big, big way. They were putting 125 engines, previously were going at about 9 brake horsepower, and then they were suddenly pushing 22 brake, which was a monumental step. There's two types of two-stroke engine basically. The early engines were all based on crankcase compression. They got their power by compressing like a pump, compressing their crankcase gases, pushing them up into the top of the cylinder, then combusting them, and then pushing them out through a normal exhaust system like this, which is just a silencer box and a downpipe, which they would put to a determined length to determine how much low end power or RPM they would get. Longer the pipe, less RPM, shorter the pipe, a bit more RPM, and then your bleed pipe. This determines the back pressure of your exhaust system. Two strokes really do rely on back pressure. You have to have a certain amount of back pressure, and the correct back pressure for that size and volume of engine. But the other type of two-stroke, the modern two-stroke, which was developed by Walter Kaaden, completely different. Kaaden developed the two-stroke expansion chamber, whereas the diffuser cone sucks the spent gases out of the cylinder. Then, halfway down the diffuser cone, the first pulse wave would return to scavenge the cylinder. Then, the second pulse wave would return all the way back down the expansion chamber to hold that charge, the new charge, into the cylinder. Now, as some people think that gases flow backwards and forwards to hold the charge in, that's where you're wrong. It is waves, sound waves. Expansion chambers work at the speed of sound. So therefore, speed of sound is a constant. You change the length of the exhaust, you change the point during your RPM where you get the resonance coming in harmony with the engine. That's why you notice a big change in sound when the power comes on chat. You still have a bleed pipe at the end, the stinger. That still has to happen to create some back pressure, because they still rely on back pressure. But this expansion chamber acted like a supercharger for a two-stroke. Kaaden was an absolute genius. Now, if you want to know more about expansion chambers, more in-depth explanation, I'll put a link in below to a fantastic site that on two-stroke expansion chamber theory and mathematical formulas. So that'll be down below. You can go and have a look if you're really into it. Then in the 60s, Lambretta broke a record of 125 miles an hour. It was actually the motorbike record at the time. Fantastic achievement, but most of it was all down to aerodynamics. Their exhaust system was simply a diffuser cone, which did give them extra power. But then, with full expansion chambers, we've got people like Keith Terry, Eric Cope, Todd Rogers in California, all making fantastic success with their engines, and the expansion chamber is really, really key to that. They make their power from fantastic exhaust systems. So, and it was all thanks to that man, Walter Kaaden, that developed everything. The reed valve, the rotary induction valve, which was a disc valve motor, was all done by him. Even the boost port was invented by Walter Kaaden. He literally changed the two-stroke engine and made it what it is today. And we all love it. The smell, the sound, everything about it is amazing. So, all two-stroke lovers, please like and subscribe to my channel. This is not only the home of Lambretta, but the home of two-strokes.